Welcome, everybody, to Shaping the Next Generation of Clinical Learning, our spring launch event. We're so glad you're able to join us today. I'm Leslie Fall, founder and CEO here at Aquifer. Before we get started, I want to take a minute for a little bit of housekeeping. We encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat and to connect with one another as we go along. If you have any questions for our team, please do use the Q&A functionality so that we can be sure we don't miss any of your key questions. And yes, we are recording this and we'll share the recording with all of you afterwards. With that, let's get started. 25 years ago, I was a pediatrician at Dartmouth, sending medical students out to rural New England for their clinical rotations. The students loved it. The community preceptors were deeply engaged in their learning, but I kept running into the same problem. Despite the wonderful clinical experiences our students were having every day, I could not guarantee that each student was learning about all the core conditions and getting the same quality of teaching and feedback as they worked through patient encounters with their preceptors. And it wasn't for lack of knowing what they needed, nor faculty development efforts on my part. The national curriculum existed. Our pediatric educator community had spent years defining exactly what every student in pediatrics should learn. What we didn't have was a reliable way to deliver it and to document students' engagement with the material consistently, at scale, regardless of where a student happened to be training. So we built it. And over the years, we asked other educator communities to join us as well. We created virtual cases aligned to national curricula, authored and maintained by leading educators in each field, and we created assessments to measure students' learning and to better inform their learning plans. We set out to solve a problem in healthcare education, and through this work, we proved that when educators build together, every student gains access to the collective expertise of the field, supplementing their experiences with their preceptors and their patients. 20 years later, Aquifer is still serving this core mission because these challenges still exist, along with newer ones today. Educators are being asked to continue to address gaps in clinical exposure, but also support larger, more diverse, and more distributed learner groups, respond to the test prep culture, integrate technology and AI thoughtfully, and prepare students for increasingly complex patient care, all the while still ensuring consistency and quality across the curriculum, with limited time and seemingly endless demands for it. Because Aquifer is built in partnership with educators across national organizations of educators and professional disciplines, these are not abstract challenges to us. They directly shape where we invest, what we build, and how we continue to evolve our platform, our curriculum, and our pedagogy. Everything we're sharing today is designed around one core mission: helping you to deliver trusted, scalable clinical education in an evolving landscape where high-quality content and teaching, efficient processes, and learner outcomes are more important than ever in preparing confident future clinicians. What I am especially proud of is that every one of these updates reflects collaboration between clinical educators, curriculum leaders, student advisory groups, and our product teams. So with that, I'd like to introduce the team, and they'll walk you through some of the latest ways Aquifer is evolving to support you and your learners. So we're going to start today with Amy Landwehr, one of our product managers, talking about our most recent innovations in curriculum support and in virtual learning.
Thanks, Leslie. We know that you as educators are often balancing limited time with the need to create learning experiences that reflect the unique goals of your program, course, or learners. One thing we consistently hear is that you want faster, easier ways to identify the right content and build customized courses without adding additional administrative burden. To help address that, we've expanded the integration between our AI assistant and Course Builder, making it easier to move from curriculum planning to course creation in a streamlined way. As always, you can simply enter a topic, learning objective, or area of focus into the AI assistant and quickly receive relevant Aquifer cases and teaching content aligned to those needs. Now recommended cases can be selected and directly added into course creation workflows, reducing the need to move back and forth between tools and helping you build tailored learning experiences more efficiently. Within the Course Builder, you'll also now see an access point for the assistant. allowing you to add additional content as you build out your course. The goal of this two-way integration is to streamline the course development process so that you can spend less time managing workflows and more time focused on teaching and learner support. We're also excited to share a new feature. You can now add or upload files of your own curriculum materials, such as course objectives, syllabi, and other curriculum documents, directly into our AI assistant to quickly identify Aquifer content aligned to your program's needs. Again, the goal is to help you spend less time finding the best Aquifer content and building out assignments to meet your needs, and more time with students in meaningful learning experiences. In addition to supporting you, we continue to expand the ways your students can actively practice clinical reasoning and communication skills within Aquifer. For those who may be newer to virtual patient encounters, these experiences allow students to engage in guided patient conversations within specific clinical cases, helping them practice skills like history taking, information gathering, and clinical communication in a safe learning environment. Because these experiences are built on Aquifer's trusted educator-authored content and prompts, they provide your students with structured educational interactions, complete with feedback, designed especially to support their clinical learning and reasoning development. We recently released another 8 VPEs so that there are 2 or more for each core course across clinical disciplines, with more in the works. One thing we know about real patient interactions is that they happen through conversation, not typing. To help make these learning experiences feel more natural and authentic for your students, we're adding speech-to-text functionality within our virtual patient encounters. Students will be able to speak their questions aloud, have them transcribed automatically, and continue interacting with the patient encounter in a way that more closely mirrors real clinical communication. Let's see that in a demo.
Hello, Miss Waters. Can you tell me what brings you in today? I'm sorry to hear about that. Can you tell me more about this? Do you have any other symptoms when the palpitations occur? Is it interfering with daily life?
We're also adding speech-to-text functionality into summary statements within Aquifer cases. Clinical reasoning depends not only on gathering information, but on students being able to synthesize and clearly communicate their thinking. This enhancement gives your students another opportunity to practice articulating clinical reasoning in a way that feels more conversational and reflective of their real clinical experience. Let's see a demo of this.
13-year-old presenting to a primary care physician for concerns about attention and feelings of inadequacy. The patient reports feeling stupid or disappointed. No changes to diet, sleep, or other activities are reported. There's been no serious illness or injury.
Great, thank you. Before I pass this off, let me just remind you all that you're welcome to put questions in the Q&A. Our team will answer them as we go, and we'll be sure to talk through any larger ones at the end of the webinar. With that, Anthony Wilson, our Manager of Curriculum Operations, will talk about our curriculum updates. Anthony?
Thanks, Amy. The start of our new subscription year brings a meaningful expansion of our curriculum across 3 specialties: neurology, obstetrics and gynecology, and psychiatry, giving your students further opportunities to build their clinical reasoning skills and your faculty a better view of their students' performance. Our OBGYN course provides essential training through case-based modules and practical assessments for medical students, NPs, and PAs. It emphasizes evidence-based care and prepares learners to manage complex reproductive health cases. We'll be adding 2 new cases to the course, one focused on depression and anxiety in pregnancy and the postpartum period, and another on preconception counseling. A third, focused on ovarian neoplasia, will be coming this fall. In neurology, we're adding 2 new cases, one covering head trauma and brain death in an emergency context, and one on sleep disorders, specifically helping students distinguish narcolepsy from obstructive sleep apnea, with substance use screening woven in. OSA is one of the most underdiagnosed conditions in primary care. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine estimates that between 50 million and 70 million Americans live with a sleep disorder, and most of them are never formally diagnosed. A case that teaches students to think carefully through these presentations is a practical, high-value addition. The head trauma and brain death case addresses a different kind of clinical complexity, one that involves both technical knowledge and difficult conversations with families. It's an area where strong training makes a real difference. We're also adding a new set of psychiatry cases, including post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and panic, and major depressive disorder. Psychiatry is one of the areas where students share consistently feeling the least prepared, and the need has never been clearer. Mental health conditions are among the most common things clinicians encounter across every specialty, and students need structured practice and reasoning through them. AAMC's ongoing work on behavioral health in medical education points to this gap, and these cases are a direct response to it. Additionally, Calibrate for Psychiatry will be available on July 1st. Calibrate is Aquitur's formative assessment, driving self-directed learning to help your students build higher order thinking and problem-solving skills. While your students have already had access to our quiz generator and growing bank of practice smart questions for the past few years, including the latest questions for our integrated illness scripts and psychiatry, we're launching Practice Smart Essentials on July 1st. This student-facing tool is designed to support self-directed learning and help your students study more intentionally across health professions programs. Practice Smart's Essentials provides educator-curated practice quizzes that help learners identify where they're strong, where they may have gaps, and which topics need additional focus. For MD programs, quizzes are also mapped to system subdomains on the MBME subject exams, helping students prepare more strategically for shelf exams. What makes Practice Smart Essentials different is what happens after the quiz. Your students don't just receive a score, they receive a clearer learning pathway. Aquifer cases are surfaced to help reinforce weaker areas, giving your students a more focused, personalized study plan tied directly to clinical reasoning development. Whether students are preparing for high-stakes exams, strengthening understanding in a specific discipline, or guiding their own self-directed learning, the goal is the same: helping learners spend their study time more effectively while building stronger clinical judgment. What's launching this July reflects Aquifer's commitment to a comprehensive curriculum, giving all students the opportunity to become better clinicians while giving faculty more opportunities to guide them. We're glad to be expanding what's available to you and your programs, and we're looking forward to the year ahead. With that, let me pass this off to Carrie Waters, another product manager here at Aquifer.
Thanks, Anthony. We've talked a lot so far about expanding learning experiences and supporting clinical reasoning development. But another thing we consistently hear from educators like you is, how do we actually track learner progression and make this information actionable? That's exactly what our recent reporting and dashboard updates are designed to support. So over the last year, we've released multiple new and upgraded reports that make it fast and simple to access the data you need. With the goal of allowing you to easily see both Calibrate assessment and case performance data in one place, we've upgraded course and added the new comprehensive report. To streamline your analysis, you can customize reports by selecting the data that you want to show on the screen, which means you can create the views you need for your own reporting once, and then save, export, or use our new Easy Share feature to give your colleagues one-click access with no sign-in required. The new Magic Link feature makes it easier than ever for you to share information across your team, helping your faculty and admins leverage Aquifer data to support your students and inform program-wide curriculum so everyone can take full advantage of your program subscription. And don't forget, there's even more you can do with reports, like finding curricular gaps and performance trends, either by discipline or body system when you analyze Practice Smart quiz data. You can also inform your mid-clerkship feedback, coaching, or remediation needs by viewing complete performance details for individual students. And now you can understand and demonstrate the value that your subscription brings by viewing Aquifer usage across all disciplines and features in the new program usage overview report. As a bonus, you can use the recommendations at the top of this report for easy, actionable next steps to help your team make the most of what Aquifer brings to student learning. And if you're not sure where to start, don't forget the quick overview you can always find in your educator dashboard. So with that, let's preview some of the future work we're building across the platform. As health professions education continues to evolve, we know that students increasingly expect learning experiences that are intuitive, modern, and easy to navigate. So for us, the redesign effort is about more than just looks. Our goal is to create a learning experience that reduces friction, supports learner focus, and makes it easier for you and your students to engage with our trusted clinical learning tools. So with that in mind, we're kicking off a complete design refresh of our platform, starting this summer and continuing on a rolling basis as we update the entire site. This will bring you and your students all of your trusted content and assessments and the features you all need with a fresh user experience. Our first priority is modernizing the case experience. As you can see, we're streamlining navigation with a scannable sidebar, and we're keeping the patient at the center of care by putting the patient profile at the front and center. One of the next areas we're redesigning is our student homepage and learning journey experience. The goal here is to help students understand what to prioritize next and identify areas where they may need additional support by linking them to our formative assessment tools, either Calibrate or the new Practice Smart Essentials quizzes, and those will link directly to the meaningful learning they find in Aquifer cases and scripts. As learners face increasing information overload, we want the platform experience itself to better support focused, personalized learning grounded in the content that you trust most. But we didn't forget about you. After that, we'll turn our attention to our faculty and administrators. We know your time is valuable, and we're working on a new homepage and dashboard combination designed to help you find the next steps and easily access what you need fast. With that, let me hand this off to Sean Griffin, our Manager of Product Engineering, to talk more about platform updates.
Thanks, Gary. We know that students are managing a lot, and learning doesn't always happen at the desk. Aquifer is committed to meeting each learner where they are. That's why we're excited to be building a new and improved mobile app experience that will support browser access along with offline functionality to some key features like the case experience. This will help students continue learning more flexibly across environments and devices. Stay tuned as we'll be sharing more about that update in our summer launch. We're also pleased to share an update on Aquifer's commitment to accessibility across the Aqueduct platform. As part of our alignment with updated Title II ADA requirements, we've completed enhancements to strengthen accessibility across core areas of the platform. In particular, we have improved screen reader support through clear structure and labeling, full keyboard accessibility for all interactive elements, and enhanced focus visibility for non-mouse navigation, and updated page color and contrast throughout Aqueduct. If you or your IT team need a voluntary product accessibility template, more commonly known as a VPAT, or any security information to help get Aquifer approved as your learning platform, you can request access to those documents through our Trust Center at trust.aquifer.org. Once there, click on the link for the document and submit your request. Our team will review requests and send out approvals. With that, I think we're all set. So let me pass this back to Leslie to wrap things up.
Great, Sean. Thank you so much. And apparently I now know where the mute button is. So we'll get going from that point going forward. So I really want to thank everyone today for spending your time with us. I know for some of you, it's just after your coffee time. For others of you, it's over your lunch. But regardless, everybody's busy. And we really are honored and respect the fact that your time is well spent with us today. So when we began, Aquifer made a simple bet. If we captured the best clinical education from our respective fields and built it out into a structured, accessible format, created and maintained by educators for educators and their students, then every student could be provided with a consistent foundational learning experience regardless of where they were training. Today demonstrates that our bet was spot on, and our investments, as you can see, continue to compound. At a time when clinical education is evolving ever more rapidly, what matters most is preserving the quality, trust, and human judgment at the center of learning and clinical care. This is why everything you've seen today isn't merely a list of feature updates. I want to be clear. It represents a more powerful version of the same thing you've come to benefit from Aquifer all along. AI that draws from curated, educator-authored content rather than the open internet or a random large language model. Cases built to address the specific clinical gaps your learners continue to experience, including now for more areas in psychiatry, in neurology, and in OBGYN. Assessment tools designed not to replace clinical judgment, but to build it. Reports that help you actually act on the insights you gain through Aquifer about your learners and their individual needs, especially as those continue to evolve. Together, these changes respond to where we believe the biggest challenges in clinical learning are emerging. Our focus remains helping you to build a trusted, scalable foundation for clinical learning for your students, one grounded in educator expertise, meaningful learning insights, and the realities of modern healthcare training. And just as importantly, we recognize that successful outcomes don't come from using technology in isolation. We continue to invest in your Aquifer experience as well. By expanding our onboarding, training, and adoption support efforts, our goal is to help you optimize how you integrate Aquifer across your entire curriculum and programmatic evaluation in a manner that suits you and your own curriculum best. Our goal is not to simply provide the tools, but to partner with you in helping your students to become more confident, thoughtful, and prepared clinicians. And like every good partnership, trust is at the heart. You can believe that we are here to support you, that we continue to provide the quality, peer-reviewed content that we have always offered, that even as the use of AI becomes increasingly common across education and clinical care, our AI-supported learning experiences remain painstakingly built by educators to accurately reflect the highest quality teaching and learning in each case, and that our approach to innovation remains grounded in educational quality, evidence-based learning, curriculum alignment, and the real needs of your learners and your faculty. Ultimately, every enhancement we've shared today and will continue to share in the future ties back to the same mission that has guided Aquifer from the beginning, helping prepare the next generation of clinicians to think critically, care compassionately, and deliver better human-centered patient care. We're incredibly grateful for the partnerships of this community and for the educators who continue to shape both our content and our direction. And a last note before we wrap up. I firmly believe we are at a critical turning point in clinical education, one that requires a true reimagining of what to preserve and what to transform. So, I've been working on something that allows me to go a bit deeper into the questions we're navigating together, about the clinical training experience, about the role of technology and what it means to train for excellence in human-centered patient care going forward. So, more on that soon. Now, let's get to your questions. Katie?
Thanks, Leslie, and thanks to everyone presenting today. So we had some questions that came in beforehand, some questions in the Q&A. I haven't checked the chat, but it looks like we have some questions in the chat as well. So I'm going to invite our executive leadership team, our product managers, the addition Joe as well, to come join us as he runs our VPEs. And we'll all get on the screen and start digging in from there. So let's start with one that we got in ahead of time. This is a question about coaching approaches and formative feedback. So I think Emily said she might take that one as we get started.
Yeah, that would, I'm happy to take that one, Katie. And so the question was around where we stand, I believe, with our current approach to coaching. And what I would say is it's a great question, and our approach hasn't really changed significantly from what we have been doing over the last couple of years. And that's actually really intentional because we frame this around the Anyone Can Coach framework, and continue to believe that is the right practice moving forward. And so instead of trying to change that, we have ensured or continue to try to ensure that it is as easy as possible for your students to engage in that coaching process through our platform. And so the students are able to complete an individualized learning plan in our platform and share it through our platform to the coach identified at your program. If you want to know sort of specific details on exactly what that looks like, I would strongly encourage you actually to sign up for a curricular consult, which we will make sure to put the link in the chat, where you will get someone from the Aquifer staff to walk you through this, but also one of our peer trainers who are our partners out there working at schools across the country to continue to integrate Aquifer well.
Thank you. We had some questions about Practice Smart Essentials. So that's a kind of new piece that came in, bridging that curriculum and exam prep piece. And so how are we thinking about supporting students without contributing to just this test prep mindset and culture that we're seeing there? So Emily, Leslie, Anthony, any of you guys want to take that one to start?
I think the perfect one to take this one would actually be Carrie, who has been the product manager working hard to develop this with me, but if not, I will happily take it, Carrie.
Why don't you get started, Emily, and I'll chime in.
Again, so around the idea of bridging the gap for our learners, we know that whether we as educators like this or not, our students are heavily focused on doing questions as a way of preparing for their end of rotation exam, whatever that exam might be, commonly an MBME self-exam for our MD and DO colleagues, but PA and NP schools having similar process. And so with that in mind, we want to meet them in the middle, is what I would say. We 100% believe that Aquifer is about teaching clinical reasoning and teaching clinicians to be better clinicians, master clinicians in their future careers. So to bridge that, we have created the Essentials exam that is considered to, that asks questions of all of our cases within a core discipline. I think you all recognize that our content in our courses is mapped to the nationally recommended curriculum. So by completing the Practice Smart Essentials exam, they will have completed questions on every case within our core discipline. So that means that they are answering questions on the comprehensive curriculum. But more importantly, they're also putting in certainty rating scales, and then we are able to identify for them, hopefully, their opportunities for focused studying. So speaking about that individualized learning plan, hopefully the output of the Essentials Practice Smart exam for them allows them to be like, I did really well in cardiology. Sorry, adult internist here. I should own that. But important across specialties. I did really well in cardiology, but I am struggling in nephrology. Let me go do these two cases in nephrology to make sure that I am a better clinician when it comes to taking care of patients with those disorders.
And specifically, when students get those reports back, they can add those to their to-do lists, those cases to their to-do list. So it just makes it a smooth transition to go from your exam to reports to the remediation that they need.
Thank you, Emily. Carrie, you have anything to add to that, or she got it all down pat?
That was excellent. I will just add that what we're trying to do is create that self-directed learning loop, as Emily described. And as part of that, we're going to be driving students to that Essentials quiz when they sign in, so that they are able to prioritize assignments, or, as Emily mentioned, find those gaps in their learning.
Awesome. Thank you. We have some more questions that came in ahead of time, so we're going to still dig into those. But in the meantime, the Q&A sometimes in Zoom isn't always easy to find. So if you don't see it in the bottom of your screen, just click on that More fun Q&A. Go ahead and toss any additional questions you want answered. This is your time. If we kind of wrap through the pre-questions, answer any other pieces coming through, we will wrap up, and we don't want to miss your question because you're so focused that you didn't get a chance to ask it. So make sure to find that, add those in there as we go through. So we had a question about AI innovation. So we talked a lot about the AI that came in. Amy did a great job talking about our speech-to-text functionality, our VPs that have come in, our summary statements, our AI assistant. How do you think programs should be evaluating these AI tools when they're looking at them for clinical education? So Leslie, do you want to take a stab at that one?
Sure, I'm happy to do so. It's a fantastic question. And I think that's a lot of why we continue to talk about how we're building our AI tools as we talk about rolling them out and where we hope students find them useful in their elevating their practice to something that's a bit more authentic to real patient care. And as a matter of fact, we spent probably the last 2 days internally talking about this as well. I think one of the most important things about understanding how to think through AI innovation and the tools you're looking at is to ask yourself the same exact questions that you would ask yourself about any other tool. So it's not that this is super special per se, as I think it really says, okay, if I'm going to be evaluating a tool for my learning environment, one, who's in charge of authoring it? Is this peer reviewed? How is it maintained? How is it staying updated? To what external content is it linked? Is it aligned to my curriculum? So you really have, in many respects, I think, all the same exact questions. What's really interesting with AI, though, is it's what happens once that curriculum and that tool gets deployed. So a lot of the AI work in the background then relies on how those calls how the prompts are written, how the calls are happening, what large language model is being used, how the prompts are interacting with each other, and most importantly, how the outputs that your students are getting are being tested prior to them really reaching your student. So another model, I think, for clinicians particularly is to also think about drug testing. You can begin to think about some of the basic early days, of when we're trying to test drugs on certain patient populations and better trying to understand the outputs. But over time, those studies get better and better and better, and you're getting more and more and more deep into a broader exposure to a larger patient population. And that's very much what our team does at the same time. So that's my overview, but I'm going to take a moment to turn it over to Joe Miller. And Joe's really the magic behind a lot of what we're doing. Joe, I'd like you to kind of add on a little bit to what I talked about as it relates to how you're working with our consortium to make sure both the inputs and the outputs are of the highest possible quality we can attain.
Yeah, in direct answer to the question, I would just say everything that Leslie said. Purpose is really important. What's the purpose for this? In our case, we build our tools not as a feature that's intended just to engage or just because AI is there, but because we believe it truly expands and improves the learning experience for students. The second thing I think is really where Leslie would like me to touch on most, which is the role of the consortium. And this is really the unfair advantage that Aquifer has in this process, which is that our content sets up a context for a clinical experience. And that is edited and taught by the consortium members who write these cases and edit these cases. And we bring our artificial intelligence features directly into that context, which means that those same consortium members, those same clinical educators are reviewing everything that goes into that process. So there's a human in the loop that evaluates this and adds to the value of it. And the last thing I would say in the context directly of the question is the transparency with which the tool that you're using is, how transparent are they about how they're building it and what they're doing with it. And I would say that we have a transparency statement on our website somewhere. But I would say that this is really important. It's both important to the students and it should be important to the educators. We take it quite seriously. One of the things that I would just like to add as a footnote to that conversation is that all the data that are exchanged between students and through the AI features are not used to train any large language models. It's part of our agreement with the providers of the LLMs that we use in this process, and that's a requirement for us.
Thanks, Joe. And the answer to that question is if you go to our drop-down menu on content and click on Aquifer AI, that transparency statement is linked directly on that page, so you can easily find it. And it looks like Anthony is on top of it and shared it directly with you. So thanks, Anthony. While we're talking about innovating and all of these pieces, we have a question that I think I'm going to direct to Matt. So we've talked about investments, redesigns, mobile access, new cases. How are we deciding where to prioritize our development?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a great question. The answer is there's no like silver bullet there, unfortunately, right? Like if we think about our team, right, we have the PMs that are on the call today that are advocating for all the features that you all request. And we meet as an executive team, we review that list, and then we prioritize based on our strategic roadmap, right? And so we have clear strategic direction as a company that we want to continue to invest in AI. We want to continue to modernize the platform, and we want to continue to be a data-driven company that helps bring personalization at scale so that our students can learn and do self-directed learning, and that you get the data you need at your fingertips in order to be able to direct the curriculum. So those are our core tenets, right? But what we do is we look at the projects as they're coming in, the scope of each project, and make sure we're delivering the highest value we can in the shortest time period as possible, right? So sometimes that means, having to put, an AI feature on pause so that we can get, a new UI feature out. So what we do promise is that in these meetings, we will show you what's up and coming. We will tell you when it's going to be released. We release on a continuous deployment process, which means we're shipping code, multiple times per week. So we try to get features to you as quick as possible and let you know when they're being released. So that's my promise to you, and that's how we prioritize our work. Leslie, Emily, anything you want to add there that I might have missed?
Matt, I think that was great. And I'll just remind everybody, we don't have a silver bullet, but we have a mission. And that's actually one of the things that really essentially is, as Joe calls it, our unfair advantage, but also I think our silver bullet. Every single thing, because we have to be very careful about our investments, is to ensure that all of our investments go directly to the things that matter most, to creating and developing the best clinicians possible in this continuing evolving learning environment. We don't have shareholders, we don't have personal owners, we have you, we have our mission, and we have our learners. And pretty much as a nonprofit, our goal is to improve the health of our nation. And that is what we do every day, is to recognize what are the most important things we can invest in with the highest impact that meet that need. And in that respect, if there's a silver bullet, that's the one for us.
And Leslie, if I can just piggyback off of that, because I think, I know we've talked about this as a group, but one of the reasons I find Aquifer to be so uniquely positioned in how we can be innovative is a little bit of what you just said, but just to double click on it, if you will. There's really no one else in our space that is as connected to this market because of our consortium, our deep roots into our market, so the number of clients we have and the relationships we have with them, and our national partnerships. So we, I think, to Matt's point, we want to innovate based on what we're hearing, and we have so many really great relationships and partnerships that allow us to truly understand the unique challenges in this space and allow us to have the space to go solve them with you. And so I just want to comment that because I think that that's something very unique and special about Aquifer that not every solution on the market can offer.
Thanks. We got a question come in chat. So I'm going to, either place right now is working because it's not a crazy message board at this point in time. Anthony answered that Practice Smart Essentials. So you can't find them quite yet. But I'm going to let him expand a little bit on that piece since it looks like he's continuing to add to that chain. So you want to talk just a little bit more? Anything else you can tell us about Practice Smart Essentials beyond what you already shared?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, I think I mentioned before, they're aligned to the subdomains, the skills subdomains in the MBME shelf exams. And so we're looking at pediatrics, internal medicine, family medicine, psychiatry, neurology. So they also, to try to get around that heavy focus students have on exam prep, just like our Calibrate exams, they push students back to our cases. And so if they unearth some weaknesses or some areas where they could grow a little faster within the exams, it'll push them back to the relevant cases. They'll be able to see the metadata associated with those questions, the teaching points, the learning objectives, and any body systems or clinical locations, that sort of thing. So they can really push themselves in that direction without it just being, a set of questions that they get answers to and they're satisfied with that. It really helps them direct their own learning. So.
And I'm just going to add a note to that. I know maybe Carrie can add a little bit of that. It is super helpful for our MD students for that mapping, but the essentials quizzes are not just available for them, or they won't just be available. So Carrie, can you talk to me a little bit about, where students will see those across the board and be able to use that to map back to cases for studying?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Katie. Another point I want to make is that essentials quizzes are just for students. So at this point, that's a safe space for student learning. If you're looking to see detailed student performance, then Calibrate is really the tool that you need as faculty. So I just want to make that important differentiation. As Practice Smart Essentials quizzes, great for your students to do self-directed learning, find their gaps, find the cases they need. For Calibrate, you get to see all the detailed student performance, great for remediation, coaching, and understanding progress through your clerkship. So the essentials quizzes are going to be available to students when they sign in through our quiz generator, which is getting an upgrade very soon for this launch. And yeah, the students will find their quizzes when they sign in. If they're prompted to, if you're not already using Calibrate, we'll be directing them to the essentials quiz, or they can find it anytime in the quiz generator.
Awesome. Thanks. And while we're talking about that, quiz and data and the fact that Practice Smart really is our student environment and Calibrate is that chance for educators, the early version, see how they're doing when they're coming in a couple weeks in, see how they're doing at the end, help prepare and get all that data. Anyone want to share an example of how faculty are using our reporting and Calibrate to support struggling students, kind of at an earlier pace and not just when they're struggling at the end of a session? Gabe, I think you might have some insight in customer pieces coming in. So do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, happy to. I think we've heard a few kind of use cases from our clients, specifically around the implementation of the early Calibrate assessment. So as someone's coming in and we're even in different levels, right, from even at the residency level saying, hey, we're just not really quite sure where these students are, and kind of getting that, what I just call baseline, right, and understanding that piece and using that from both a individual coaching or remediation standpoint. And so sometimes it's not really remediation because it's not too late, but proactively finding those strengths and weaknesses. But I've also heard a lot of, and I think this is one of the cooler pieces, is really good kind of cohort level, right? So where is this group performing? And, okay, do I need to go add a lecture on XYZ because I'm seeing that that's a weakness maybe across the larger cohort, not just an individual. So I think I am seeing a lot of traction, especially in that early stage, so that educators can take a very proactive approach, both at the individual level and at kind of a class or cohort level. Hopefully that helps give a little bit of an example. I do think I'll plug again the curriculum consults. I've learned we like to joke here. We got one healthcare program is, when you met one, you met one. And so there's lots of unique implementations here. So I would really encourage people who are considering the use of Calibrate to sign up for a curriculum consult, come meet with one of our peer trainers. Let's talk about your unique needs and your unique challenges that you're trying to address, and let's find the right implementation for you and your program.
Awesome. I'm going to wrap up with two things. One, just a note before I pass the last question to Leslie. We had a bunch of people that asked very specific content questions previous to this thing. So I would say, in addition to scheduling a consult, definitely ask our AI assistant, where can I find X case, and go from there, use that file upload option, use all these pieces, because between the AI assistant and our amazing team, that's going to be your best place to start along with that curricular consult. So just keep that in mind as you're going through. We will follow up with people within specific questions, but so you don't have to hear this long list of how I teach this very specific thing. We'll follow up directly with them. So Leslie, I'm going to wrap with the last question about challenges people are trying to solve right now, kind of across clinical training. I know you hinted at this in your Clinical Learning Reimagined, but maybe just one last little piece to kind of tease that a little more, and then we go from there.
That'd be great. Thank you, Katie. Before I do that, I'll take the executive moment, though, to also say on top of what Gabe just said is, I have talked to many people in programs who have started to implement Calibrate in their programs. And the other key thing that they've seen is they've seen the need for remediation go down. So the fact that students essentially come into, your whole group of students come into their clerkship or their course and they get their Calibrate data back and they understand really where they're sitting, truly does give them the learning path forward. And I think that's the most important thing. It reduces the burden on us as educators, but more importantly, it actually gets them on track from the beginning. So if I have anything to me that's made me feel great about Calibrate, it's that. What I will say and what the challenges that I think that we're facing going forward is the first thing is I think the question that was brought up earlier is how do we evaluate these AI tools going forward to solve some of our problems? Because the reality is one of the benefits of AI is it is finally allowing us, and this is why I'm staying excited and staying in the game, it's finally allowing us to execute on the vision that we had 25 years ago, which is how do you take great innovations that are coming out and mimic and mirror and support and supplement that what I call golden triangle of learning. You know, a faculty, a preceptor, a patient, and a learner in the room or on the wards or in, in the real community environment, having the learner learn real medicine in that regard. We know that's not scalable. It's beautiful and it's wonderful and we want to support it, but it's not scalable. So I think one of the main challenges we have right now is how do we evaluate and implement AI in a way that it actually meets its promise of scaling that kind of learning? And how do we do so in a way that it draws our students away from this test prep culture of using technology to constantly quiz themselves? And I think that rests with us as educators. We have to be the ones to name and demonstrate the fact that clinical learning is not having your patients come and ask you as a clinician in the future what your board score was. They want to know that you're an outstanding clinician and that you're going to be there for them. So for us as educators, I truly think that's the most important thing, is to ensure that we draw our students back into clinical learning as the most important thing they're here to do, supplemented by knowing that they have the right knowledge base.
Awesome. I think with that, we've answered the questions that we got and some more that kind of came in as we went through from here. So I'm going to say thank you all for joining us. Leslie, I'll let you do the last sign off and we can go from there.
Great. I will just say the same thing. Thank you, everybody, for spending your time with us. And more importantly, thank you for being here with us in our mission to support you in training the world's best clinicians going forward to take care of all of us and our families as we move forward as a nation into becoming a little bit healthier, hopefully, and providing outstanding care in the future. So thank you very much. And please have a great rest of your day.